Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jamunatira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Paramaha Shabhavrajagacharya Astada CC AC Namachar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sagaha Sri Krishna Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Gangs Jamuna Tulsi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnava. Heaven. It's a long verse here. Iti reshe tarke nija mahimani svapratitimike paratrajato tan anirasana mukha brahmaka mitau Anishe pidrastum kimidam iti va mukhyati sati. Chachadajo gyatva sapari paramoja janavikam. Itire shetarkye nija mahimani svapratnitike. Paratrajato tannirasana mukha brahmaka mitau. Anishe pi drashtum kimidam iti va muhyati sati. Chachadajo gyatva sapari paramoja javanikam. Iti, thus, Ira Ishe, Lord Brahma, the Lord of Saraswati, Attarkye, beyond, Nija Mahimani, whose own glory, Swapramitike, self-manifest and blissful, Paratra, beyond, Ajataha, material energy, Tat, irrelevant, Nirasana Mukha, by the rejection of that which is irrelevant, Brahmaka, by the crest jewels of the Vedas, Mito, in whom there is knowledge, Anishe, not being able, Api, even, Drashtam, to see, Kim, what, Idam, is this, Iti, thus, Va, or, Muhyati Sati, being mystified, Chachada, removed, Aja, Lord Sri Krishna, Gyatva, after understanding, Sapadi, at once, Parama, the greatest of all, Aja Javanikam, the curtain of Maya. Translation: the Supreme Brahman is beyond mental speculation. He is self-manifest, existing in his own bliss, and he is beyond the material energy. He is known by the crest jewel of Vedas, by refutation of irrelevant knowledge. Thus, in relation to that Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, whose glory has been shown by the manifestation of all the four-handed forms of Vishnu, Lord Brahma, the Lord of Saraswati, was mystified. What is this, he thought, and then he was not even able to see. Lord Krishna, understanding Brahma's position, then at once removed the curtain of his Yoga Maya. Purport: Brahma was completely mystified. He could not understand what he was seeing, and then he was not even able to see. Lord Krishna, understanding Brahma's position, then removed that Yoga Maya covering. In this verse, Brahma is referred to as Iresha. Ira means Saraswati, goddess of learning, and Iresha is her husband. Lord Brahma. Brahma, therefore, is most intelligent. But even Brahma, the Lord of Saraswati, was bewildered about Krishna. Although he tried, he could not understand Lord Krishna. In the beginning, the boys, the calves, and Krishna himself had been covered by Yoga Maya, which later displayed the second set of calves and boys, who were Krishna's expansions, and which then displayed so many four-armed forms. Now, seeing Brahma's bewilderment, the Lord caused the disappearance of that Yoga Maya. One may think that the Maya taken away by Lord Krishna was Mahamaya, but Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur comments that it was Yoga Maya, the potency by which Krishna is sometimes manifest and sometimes not manifest. The potency which covers the actual reality and displays something unreal is Mahamaya. But the potency by which the absolute truth is sometimes manifest and sometimes not is Yoga Maya. Therefore, in this verse, the word Aja refers to Yoga Maya. Krishna's energy is Maya Shakti or Sarup Shakti is one, but it is manifested in varieties. Parasya Shakti or Vividaya Shruyate. The difference between Vaishnavas and Mayavadis is that the Mayavadis say that this Maya is one, whereas Vaishnavas recognize its varieties. There's unity in variety. For example, on one tree there are varieties of leaves, fruits, and flowers. Varieties of energy are required for performing the varieties of activities within the creation. To give another example, in a machine all the parts may be iron, but the machine includes varied activities. Although the whole machine is iron, one part works in one way, other parts work in other ways. One does not know how the machine is working. One who does not know how the machine is working may say that it is all iron. Nonetheless, in spite of its being iron, the machine has different elements, all working differently to accomplish the purpose for which the machine was made. One wheel runs this way, another wheel runs that way, functioning naturally in such a way that the work of the machine goes on. Consequently, we give different names to the different parts of the machine, saying this is the wheel, this is a screw, this is a spindle, this is the lubrication, and so on. Similarly, as explained in the Vedas, Parasya Shaktir Vividaya Shruyate Sabhavika Jnana Bola Kriya Cha. Krishna's power is variegated, and thus the same Shakti or potency works in variegated ways. Vivida means varieties. There is unity in variety. Yes, Yogamaya and Mahamaya are among the varied individual parts of the same one potency, and all of these individual potencies work in their own varied ways. The Samvit, Sandini, and Aladini potencies, Krishna's potency for existence, potency for knowledge, and his potency for pleasure, are distinct from Yogamaya. Each is an individual potency. The Haladini potency is Radharani. As Sri Damodar Goswami has explained, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vrikutir Haladini Shaktir Asmat. The Haladini Shakti is manifest as Radharani, but Radha and Krishna are the same, although one is potent, the other is potency. Brahma was mystified about Krishna's opulence, Nija Mahimani, because his opulence was atarka, inconceivable. With one's limited senses, one cannot argue about that which is inconceivable. Therefore, the inconceivable is called achintya. That which is beyond chintya are thoughts and arguments. Achintya refers to that which we cannot contemplate but have to accept. Srila Jiva Goswami has said that unless we accept achintya in the Supreme, we cannot accommodate the conception of God. This must be understood. Therefore, we say that the words of Shastra should be taken as they are without change, since they are beyond our arguments. Achintya kalu jay bhava natam starkena yojayat. That which is achintya cannot be ascertained by argument. People generally argue, but our process is not to argue, but to accept the Vedic knowledge as it is. When Krishna says, this is superior, this is inferior, we accept what he says. It is not that we argue. Why is this superior and that inferior? If one argues, for him the knowledge is lost. This path of acceptance is called avaroha panta. The word avaroha is related to the word avatara, which means that which descends. The materialist wants to understand everything by the aroha panta, by argument and reason, but transcendental matters cannot be understood in this way. Rather, one must follow the avaroha panta, the process of descending knowledge. No, that's not right. That's still ascending process. Descending would, avatara panta would be the descending process. And therefore one must accept the parampara system. And the best parampara is that which extends from Krishna. What Krishna says we should accept. This is called avaroha panta. Anyway. I see, avaroha. Brahma, however, adopted the aroha panta. He wanted to understand Krishna's mystic power by his own limited, conceivable power, and therefore he himself was mystified. Everyone wants to take pleasure in his own knowledge, thinking, I know something, but in the presence of Krishna, this conception cannot stand, for one cannot bring Krishna within the limitations of Prakriti. One must submit. There's no alternative. Natam starkena yojayat. This submission marks the difference between Krishnites and Mayavadis. The phrase attan nirasana refers to discarding of that which is irrelevant. Atat means that which is not a fact. Brahman is sometimes described as astulam anu ahrasvam adirgam, that which is not large, not small, not short, and not long. Neti neti, it is not this, it is not this. But what is it? In describing a pencil, one may say, it is not this, it is not that. But this does not tell us what it is. This is called definition by negation. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also explains the soul by giving negative definitions. Na jayate mriyate va. It is not born, nor does it die. You can hardly understand more than this. Now, what is it? It is eternal. Ajo nityo sasvato yam purano nahanite hanyamane sarye. It is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, undying, and primeval. It is not slain when the body is slain. In the beginning, the soul is difficult to understand, but therefore Krishna has given negative definitions. Nainam chindri shastrani nainam dhati pavaka na chainam kledayantya po na soshayati maruta. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can it be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Krishna says it is not burned by fire. Therefore, one has to imagine what it is that is not burned by fire. This is a negative definition. Translation: the Supreme Brahman is beyond mental speculation. He is self-manifest, existing in his own bliss, and is beyond the material energy. He is known by the crest jewel of the Vedas, by refutation of irrelevant knowledge. Thus, in relation to that Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, whose glory has been shown by the manifestation of all the four-armed forms of Vishnu, Lord Brahma, the Lord of Saraswati, was mystified. What is this, he thought? And then he was not even able to see. Lord Krishna, understanding Brahma's position, then at once removed the curtain of his Yoga Maya. So this is, we can say, the climax of this story about the bewilderment of Lord Brahma. So Brahma is a devotee, and also a great devotee, also the head of our sampradaya. So definitely he's not a fool. And he's given great responsibility to create the material world. He also gets to see the Lord. And that's described in the second canto, where through meditation, and then the Lord appeared to him and gave him mercy and instructions in terms of the Chatusloki, the four original verses of the Bhagavatam. So he was endowed with great devotional knowledge. He saw the Supreme Lord. And third canto, it describes how he saw the whole of Vaikuntha. So he's not an ordinary person. He's a great devotee of the Lord, highly qualified. Yet, he was bewildered. Muhyati. Completely, he got confused. How did he become confused? He thought that he had taken the calves and cowherd boys and hidden them in the cave for 1 year. When he got back to see, and looked at Vrindavan after 1 year, then he saw the calves and cowherd boys playing with Krishna. And so he thought, how did they get out of the cave? How did they wake up? How did Krishna find out that I played a trick on him? So he went into the cave, and there he saw the calves and cowherd boys were still asleep. So then he thought, well, what are those cowherd boys? If the real ones are here, what are those cowherd boys? Are those the real ones, and are these ones not real? Or both, maybe they're both unreal, and the real ones are somewhere else. So he really didn't know. So then, as he was bewildered by that, then all the cows and cowherd boys turned into Vishnu forms with 4 arms. And each of the Vishnu forms was in charge of a universe with all the devatas, including Brahma, in it. And there are millions and millions of cowherd boys. So there were millions and millions of Vishnus manifested. And each was a controller of a universe. And there were all the devatas and the demons and the material elements, and everything was manifest. So that was even more shocking. Those forms which he saw of calves and cowherd boys, not the ones sleeping in the cave, but the ones outside, turned into Vishnu forms. And by that, he more or less understood that he was powerless. He was just manifested from one of these Vishnu forms, but there were millions of them, and there were millions of Brahmas. Yeah. So he understood that he didn't have that much power after all. And then, as he looked, they all disappeared. And Krishna was standing there. From which he could understand that Krishna is the source of everything, of the calves and cowherd boys he had just manifested, and of all the Vishnu forms, and of all the Brahmas and Devatas and material worlds, etc. That is described here, where it says that the Supreme Lord, Aja, covered up with his screen of Aja Javanikam, a screen of Aja, of Maya. The Supreme Lord covered up this vision of everything, all the Vishnu forms, etc. So, there's a big explanation here that this Aja does not mean material Maya. This is Yoga Maya. So Yoga Maya is a spiritual potency of the Lord by which he can make things appear or disappear at will. Why would he do that? For his pastimes in the spiritual world, or when he manifests himself within the material world. So that appearance and disappearance of perception by us is very necessary for maintenance of his pastimes. For instance, if we have a particular universe, and we have Krishna coming and he performs his pastimes, and then it's described, then he starts another group of pastimes, the same pastimes, in another universe, and another universe, and another universe, and another universe, and all of the devotees are there also. So they Vasudeva and Devaki see Krishna being born, and they see four-arm form, and then Krishna gets smuggled out of the prison, and he goes to Gokul, and then Yasoda and Nanda raise him as their child. So if there's no Yoga Maya, then everyone would think, well, we've done this already. Why you keep doing this to us? Krishna's already born in the other universe, Krishna's born in the other universe, Krishna's born in the other universe. But they don't. It's all new to them. Of course, Krishna's also in the spiritual world with Mother Yasoda, Nanda, etc. So in order to prevent complete knowledge of everything, their knowledge gets limited, or I say covered over, and they're not aware of what's happening in another universe, and another universe, another universe. And it's the same persons expanded in different universes, but they're not aware of what's happening elsewhere. And therefore it appears that they're experiencing things in time in a very new way each time. And of course in the spiritual world, then everything's also repetitive there. Krishna goes out every morning and comes back every evening in this, but nobody's bored with that either. And some of the pastimes get repeated in the spiritual world. So it's described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that repeatedly the Kaliya pastime takes place, or the killing Keshi demon takes place. So it happens many, many, many times, but nobody's aware of the previous time. So what happens? They forget. But there was, well, forgetfulness is Maya. That's this Maya we have here. We're in ignorant, but it's not. It's not the same Maya. Huh? This is caused by Krishna, by his Yoga Maya potency. That type of ignorance where things are there or not there and we can't understand things properly. Huh? So it is very necessary to have that type of ignorance manifested in the spiritual world in order that the pastimes go on or ever fresh. So this is similar to the Maya of the material world in that there is a covering of the knowledge, but it is also very different because that is directly arranged by Krishna for increasing the bliss in the spiritual world. Whereas the Maya in the material world, it creates misery for everybody. Avidya leads to, ignorance leads to identification with bodies, thinking that I'm happy with my material senses and material experiences, etc. And then consequently we get karma and we suffer. So this Maya in the material world, this type of ignorance gives completely different results, opposite results from that in the spiritual world. The only similarity there is a covering over the knowledge, but the covering of knowledge in the spiritual world, that covering is a Shakti of the Sarup Shakti. It's a spiritual energy, internal potency of the Lord. This is called external potency, the one in the material world. So it acts in a different way, completely different way. So, therefore, we shouldn't confuse the two. So, here, Krishna is using his Yoga Maya potency to make things appear and disappear, have the cowherd boys there. Through his potency, he produced exact replicas of calves and cowherd boys, so perfect that Nanda and Yasoda and all the mothers and fathers of the cowherd boys and all the cows didn't know that those were not their children or their calves for 1 year. They were so perfect. They're better than perfect because it was Krishna. So the only defect was they're even more attractive than their real cowherd boys and real calves. So the cows fell in love with those calves more than ever. And the elder cowherd men and women fell in love with their children more than ever. They became more and more attracted to them. And they didn't know. They're covered over by Yoga Maya. And even Balaram was covered by Yoga Maya. He didn't know either for 1 year. He couldn't detect. Which shows that even though Balaram is also Supreme Lord, Krishna's Yoga Maya is even more powerful, and it could cover up Balaram. So he was in ignorance for a year also. And he didn't know. But then, Balaram, after 1 year, he thought, this is very strange. Why the cows are so attracted to these calves, and they neglect their newborn calves. Usually the mother will start, caring for the newborn calf when they're born. After 1 year, these calves were born, but the mothers were more attracted to the elder ones and feeding them all the milk and everything. It was very strange. But then he saw how the cowherd men were completely attached to their children more than ever. Simultaneously, of course, they all became more attracted to Krishna. But then Balaram thought after 1 year when he saw this happening, so this is very strange. And he observed very carefully, and he thought, are these the real calves and cowherd boys? What's wrong here? Maybe it's devatas impersonating the calves and cowherd boys. They cannot bewilder me. Is it demons doing this? No, they cannot bewilder me. Is it great sages? They cannot bewilder me also. None of these people can bewilder me. He thought and thought and thought. And then he finally realized that no one can bewilder me except Krishna. So he looked very carefully, and then he understood, this is all Krishna's Maya. And he went to Krishna, and Krishna explained to him what had happened. But otherwise, he was completely bewildered also. So what to speak of Brahma being bewildered? Krishna can even use his Yogamaya to bewilder his own devotees and in Vrindavan, and also Balaram. So Krishna very, very powerful. But all for a particular purpose, to perform pastimes which will give bliss to everybody. So of course, the bliss of being under illusion was that the people of Vrindavan, the elders, could have Krishna as their child, even though he was Yasodananda's child. For 1 year, their own children, Krishna became their children, and then that way they got Krishna as their child. And they cared for Krishna, actually, even though they thought that was their own son. So that's one thing he did. He gave all the people in Vatsalya Rasa great bliss by becoming their child for 1 year. Of course, the other point is to enlighten Lord Brahma and make him understand his position. So this Brahma's Maya also was not normal Maya, because Brahma should not fall under illusion, even though he's a jiva. At the beginning of the creation of Brahma's birth, then the Lord promised, you will never fall into illusion in this lifetime. So therefore, this is not Mahamaya acting on Brahma either. Even his idea that, I will try to trick Krishna, that also is not his Maya, is not, his pride, etc. And all the mistakes he makes here, not his fault really. This is all an arrangement of the Supreme Lord to create a pastime by which he illustrates his own position, and through this not only Brahma but everyone who hears this pastime is able to understand how Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Now, this concept is presented in the first canto, where the list of avatars are given, and then when it comes to Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is very special among all the different forms of the Lord. So this is one pastime that reveals that Krishna is the source of all the Vishnu forms. And it's the Vishnu forms, through the Vishnu forms that we get all the avatar forms, and Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva in the material world, etc. So Krishna is in the supreme position here. He's able to manifest all the Vishnu forms who create universes and everything in the universe. So in this way, it illustrates how everything comes from Krishna. One of the unique qualities of Vishnu, Vishnu has 60 qualities in comparison to Lord Shiva, who has 55, and other jivas who have 50 qualities. So one of the unique qualities of the Vishnu forms is that universes come from them. Like we have Mahavishnu and all the universes coming out of him. So Shiva doesn't do that, and other jivas cannot do that. Brahma cannot do that. So he's the source of innumerable universes. But here in this pastime, Krishna shows he's the source of all the Vishnu forms that create all the universes. So he shows that he's more than Vishnu. And then, of course, Krishna is the source of all avatars. But here, again, because these Vishnu forms are the source of avatars, but Krishna is the source of all these Vishnus, then he's the ultimate source of all the Vishnu forms that create all the avatars, or manifest all the avatars. So Krishna is even in a superior position to the Vishnu forms. So in this way, he shows his position as a Swayam Bhagavan. So this becomes apparent to Brahma. So within Vrindavan, Krishna manifests his great power, his superior power, how he's superior to all the other forms of the Lord. So we should not say that within Vrindavan, Krishna is only sweet. He manifests sweetness, not power. It's true, he manifests sweetness more than anywhere else, more than in Mathura or Dwarka, in any other form of the Lord. But he also manifests his supreme powers within Vrindavan, and we see that here. He's greater than all the Vishnu forms. So, therefore, in Vrindavan, Krishna manifests supreme power and supreme sweetness. Both things manifest. They're contrary, because if Krishna shows his powers to the people of Vrindavan, that will reduce the sweetness. They will not experience the same sweetness in relation to Krishna if they all think he's God. So, though this happens in Vrindavan, none of the other devotees know about it. Only Brahma sees this. So it is through his Yoga Maya potency, only Brahma was able to see how all the cows and cowherd boys became Vishnu forms and then disappeared into Krishna. So, within Vrindavan, yes, great power is manifested, but limited to Brahma within Vrindavan. So after this incident, then Brahma has his prayers, which are very extensive. And in those prayers, he expresses the fact that to be a devotee of Krishna in Vrindavan is the highest thing. It is greater than Dwarka or Mathura. It is greater than being with Vishnu or any other form of the Lord. To be in the Vrindavan that appears on earth, within there as a devotee, is the greatest position of all. It's the highest position. In other words, to have that sweet relationship with the Lord is the highest in the form of Krishna and Vrindavan. So that was his final realization after all of this. So, in other words, we have Brahma getting educated to understand how this cowherd boy form, who looks like a little child, is actually the supreme form, even though he doesn't manifest all of his powers directly. He has all those powers, but he's manifesting mainly sweetness in Vrindavan. And this is the object of all the people of Vrindavan's love. And it creates the most intense prema, which is very, very rare. So he realized the nature, the supreme position of the people of Vrindavan, and how he could not even qualify to enter into Vrindavan, because he didn't have that intensity of love that they have. So these are some of the things that why Krishna manifested his Yoga Maya potency in this, to perform this pastime. So this verse is quite, say, deep, because it defines many things. It defines the position of Krishna, and the position of Brahma, etc. It describes the Supreme Lord and how he is very, very different from what he appears to be, because he was just a small boy with a lump of yogurt rice in his hand. But simultaneously, he is whatever the Upanishads describe. That Brahman, which is opposite of everything in the material world, which was proved or logically explained through negative example. He's not this, he's not this, he's not this. So that who is not this is actually Krishna. So Krishna is the impersonal Brahman, but he's also the personal Brahman. He's not anything. He has no form, no qualities, no activities related to the material world. That's half of the definition. But then the other half is that he has qualities, form, and activities beyond the material world. So, Some of the Upanishads describe the negative half, that he's not this, he is, without form, qualities, etc. But if we look closely, then we'll find that then the Upanishads also explain that he is the form with qualities, etc. How can he be both? This is the nature of the Supreme Lord. He can have form, but it's not material form. He can have qualities, but they're not material qualities. Activities, not material activities. Because of these seemingly contrary statements and contrary qualities, he is called atarkya, or inconceivable, from our point of view. Contradictions seem to exist in him from our point of view, and therefore becomes inconceivable because of that. If there's no contradictions, then it's conceivable, very logical for us. But where there are contradictions that exist, then it becomes inconceivable. We can't understand it. Why is that? So it's beyond our normal logical process, the Supreme Lord. For himself, of course, it's not illogical at all. His mind, his intelligence is not limited like ours. So it's not atarkya for him, not inconceivable, but for us it is, because we are subject to limitation. We're trying to use material mind, etc. If we come to the spiritual platform through devotion, then to some degree we can understand. And even though it may look atarkya, we accept it as part of the nature of the Lord. If we have no taste for the Lord, then of course it's completely inconceivable and contrary, and it doesn't have any meaning. Normally, things opposites that exist in a thing cannot, we will reject them as being nonsense. Like an object like this, we can say the microphone's black. Now if I say it's white, everybody says, no, it's not, it's black. And if I say it's black and white, it's nonsense. How can it be black and white? It's only black. Everybody sees it black. So to have two colors there is nonsense. So it doesn't make sense. So similarly, people say, okay, you say God has form, he has no form. Oh, it's nonsense. How can Scripture's nonsense speaking like this? It doesn't make sense. So they want everything to be very logical, like in science. Everything fits in holes. Interesting enough, the Lord makes the material world in such a way that it's also atarkya. Certain things cannot be explained. So science is not all logical at all when we come down to it. So that's what they discovered in the 20th century with Einstein and quantum mechanics. It's not logical at all, but they can't explain it. So it's still a problem for them because logic, it's not subject to the logic we know of in science. It's beyond their logic. If we have a new logic, then it becomes sensible, but they haven't discovered what that logic is yet. So therefore, it's still and nobody solved all the problems in quantum physics. Is a continual problem. All the great scientists for 100 years have been trying to solve the problem of quantum physics. They cannot do it. So it's atarkya for them. It doesn't make sense. So, therefore, even the material world has atarkya aspects to it for the most logical minds of all. They cannot explain it. So what to speak of Supreme Lord? It's spiritual, beyond the material logic, material rules, and material perceptions, etc. So necessarily, many aspects will be atarkya for people in the material world. So, if we become devotionalists, we accept that. We accept that we are limited and our sense perception is warped by our own prejudices and conditioning, etc. So therefore we accept the so-called contrary aspects, which are not contrary for the Lord, but for us they appear to be so. Brahma, through this experience, understood that great power of the Lord by which he could do anything, and he could make objects appear and disappear and turn cowherd boy forms into Vishnu forms, etc. It's also very atarkya. How is it possible? But Brahma also was able to accept because he was a great devotee of the Lord. So it was his privilege to get this experience ultimately, because it was not given to anybody else. Brahma was able to see the position of Krishna and understand his rare blessings that he gave to the people of Vrindavan that nobody else had access to. Okay, any question there? Well, we understand that actually they're all one. It's one God, one Bhagavan with many forms. So in that sense, we respect all of these forms. And they're all spiritual forms. They have attractive qualities, attractive form, attractive pastimes. And some of these pastimes are described in the other cantos. From Canto 3 through 9, we have a description of the different avatars and their pastimes. So they're naturally attractive. They have attractive qualities to them. Some persons, of course, will become completely devoted to a particular form, like Ramchandra, or a Vishnu form, or a Varaha form, and they'll be devotees of those particular forms. There's nothing wrong with that, because ultimately they can develop prema for that form of the Lord, and they're completely satisfied with that bliss, and they get spiritual bodies in the spiritual world, and they serve those forms eternally. So in that sense, nothing wrong with that. So why do we need all these forms at all? Because they're infinite jivas. And infinite jivas mean infinite points of consciousness that have their own identity. And consequently, they have their own perceptions. And they have their own likes and dislikes and whatever. Their own preferences, spiritually speaking, as well as material speaking. So, therefore, for varieties of jivas, the Lord has different forms which will satisfy those particular jivas. At the same time, we cannot say they're all one, they're all equal, because they display different amounts of spiritual qualities and pastimes. So that form which displays the most, then he's actually the supreme one, because he has more qualities, more attractive qualities, and more attractive pastimes, etc. He would be the supreme form. That's Krishna. So naturally, people should be more attracted to Krishna. But Krishna also is very stingy. In one sense, he doesn't reveal himself all the time. It's usually Vishnu forms that reveal themselves in the material world, like Dhruva saw Vishnu, etc. But and he appears once in a day at Brahma, only. And even then, even people cannot understand who he is. Brahma cannot even understand who he is. He covers himself up, so people get a little confused. So the highest is also the rarest. So only by great mercy can we understand this highest form of Krishna and become his devotee and get the highest bliss also. So particularly through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we get that mercy by which we can get access to Krishna, not only Krishna but even Madhurya Rasa and Radha Krishna. So that makes it more available to everybody. And in fact, through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it becomes the realization for the most people in Kali Yuga. So we get Lord Chaitanya doing Nam Sankirtan for all the people of Kali Yuga and telling them to chant Hare Krishna. Through that, they can realize Radha and Krishna. So, in our particular Yuga, there's some great some benediction and blessing that we get to realize the highest form of all. So the other forms, of course, are there, and jivas can approach them and they can develop prema, and they're satisfied with that. But if one gets the chance to become attracted to Krishna, worship Krishna, realize Krishna, then one gets much greater bliss. So that is why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Mahavadanya, most merciful, because he's the one that gives everybody Krishna in our particular yuga.
Because we would that okay, will keep me in bhakti, and eventually I will also develop attraction towards Lord Krishna. So with that thought process, alright, to take inspiration just so that we can advance in bhakti to the point of becoming devoted to Krishna.
Well, we see that in the Bhagavatam all these different forms are described, so therefore they do have a purpose. But the understanding of a devotee of Bhagavatam is that ultimately all these forms have attractive qualities, but they are mentioned there so that ultimately we understand that all these qualities are also in Krishna. So whatever attractive quality we find in Ramchandra, we'll find in Krishna also. Plus more.
All this pastime which are revealed to us in the material world, does Krishna repeat the same in the spiritual world, or he has a different set of...
Most of them, yeah, most of them. Of course, there's no demons in the spiritual world, so whoever is there, they're playing the role of a demon, but they're not real demons. In most cases.
Sometimes it appears that Krishna, like in Bhagavatam, there are a lot of discussions Krishna is impartial. But at the same time, it appears that he is partial to his devotees.
Yeah.
So how do we...
Well, it's not only Krishna, Vishnu also. Even Vishnu. Not only Krishna, Vishnu also. Story of Ambarish there, and Vishnu says, I'm in my devotee's in me. So, and of course, the quality of prema is Krishna Karshani. Krishna becomes attracted to the devotee. So not only Krishna, but any form of the Lord that manifests to some degree. So the idea of impartiality is there for jivas in general. The Lord does not hate them, nor does he favor them without good reason. Just as the court, ideal court, should not favor a person unreasonably and simply, okay, you're free from all your crimes for no reason. And there may be a good reason, but it's not that they bribed the court and the judge says, okay, you're free for no good reason. And so, in that sense, equal to everyone. If you do sinful activities, you get punished for the activities. If you do pious activities, you get rewarded for those. So the Lord does not interfere with that process, and he establishes the law of karma to do that. In that sense, the Lord is equal to everyone. He doesn't interfere with that. But he is naturally attracted to a person who has devotion to him. Otherwise, he would be described as impersonal or completely hard-hearted. If a person expressed affection for the Lord, but he was completely impervious, so it's a natural quality. He should respond to that. If there's no affection for the Lord, then he is neutral. He is equal. He doesn't hate them. He doesn't favor them. He just lets the law of karma operate for them. In that sense, he is neutral or sama. Yeah. They were manifestations of Krishna. The other people, no, they were the actual spiritual forms. It's only the calves and cowherd boys which were actually Krishna, but looked like calves and cowherd boys. The other people were the same forms. It was only these forms. Okay. Hare Krishna.